Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're gonna have look at this guy. If you're not watching this episode, I'm just gonna say pause and come back.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I was having a Biden moment. I'm so excited to be in Harmonious. This is such an exciting lunchtime podcast. Every day you share such amazing information. I mean, just had Donnie on talking about networking. Woo, it's amazing.
Scott, your check is in the mail. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you. We're going to have a lot of fun on today's episode. So just buckle up is all I'm going to say. If you're out there watching or listening, let's have a party. Let's lighten your load here. Maybe this episode will air on a Friday and you'll kick off your weekend. But Scott Edwards, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Brandon. I got to tell you, you've had such amazing guests. I'm not sure why I'm here. I listened to Steve talking about investment planning for retirement, and that was perfect for me. And you even had Miriam going into the digital world. I got lost on that. Did I mention I'm over 60? The whole digital thing is still kind of woo. But when it comes to business and being an entrepreneur, and in my particular case, stand-up comedy. Who likes to laugh? Do you like to laugh, Brandon?
Yeah, I can't stand laughing, Scott. I can't stand having fun. None of it. Terrible.
Then do not listen to my podcast. But it is true that like your other guest, it all starts by being an entrepreneur, which is a different lifestyle. We're kind of A personalities. I'm sure you can tell, Brandon, I'm kind of quiet and shy.
Definitely. I read that. Yep. Picked that up immediately.
And what happens when you're an entrepreneur is you have this internal engine that just keeps you moving forward all the time. I started my first company when I was 17 years old. It was a small construction company, and we had a lot of fun with that. And then after that, I had a portable disco company. Yeah, that's right. Disco, for anybody over 40 knows what that is. And we were doing weddings and schools and bar mitzvahs. It was exciting times. But the most exciting thing and my biggest career boost was in August of 1980. I opened up the 12th, that's counting 12, comedy club in the entire United States. It's called Laughs Unlimited. It's still operating today, and got a chance to work with some of the best in the business. It was so exciting. Owning a comedy club is a great way to make a living.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because obviously if people didn't know from the intro, you're a stand-up comedian, you're into comedy. We got that loud and clear. But most people just take that and they get on stage and they get paid and they hope to get gigs. And it's like, it's an artist or a musician, right? You went the business route and the entrepreneur route and you opened clubs, you made businesses. So why early on in your career, why did you make that decision rather than just being a comedian?
Well, like I said, I want to make it clear to your audience, I'm not a stand-up comic. I did MC my shows for over 20 years and did a lot of stage time. I also produced 3 TV series and produced several large concerts with people like Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno. I've been on stage a lot, and some people think I'm funny, but I'm not a stand-up comic. I'm a producer. And as a producer, I created shows, put together entertainment that I thought would fit my audience, and made money entertaining strangers with quality entertainment. So as I mentioned, I'd already opened a couple small businesses. When it came to the comedy clubs, I had visited a small satellite room of the very famous Comedy Store from Los Angeles. It was by UCLA. And I met some comics and I said, this would be perfect for my hometown, Sacramento, California. And I came up and I went bankrupt. I quit my job and I put everything into opening a small comedy club. and I had a lot of success. I ended up running it for 21 years before I sold out. I built it up to a chain of 3 clubs, and I took the money from the success of those clubs and did some really fun things. I opened a couple restaurants, a couple art galleries. I had a beach shack in Hawaii. I was young and single, and there was some fun there. And I bought a submarine and ran a tourist submarine for a few years. So I always like creating something new and exciting. And what stand-up comedy provided was the cash to go out and do some crazy fun things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Important distinction too. I apologize for getting that wrong, but it's really interesting to follow that path. You had me like the dots kind of connected until you said submarine, and I was like, now I'm back to lost.
Yeah, well, I'll explain that, but before I do, I want to explain to your audience that being a producer of stand-up comedy and opening a comedy club was a real challenge, and I had to talk to a lot of people and do a lot of research before I jumped into it. But when you own a comedy club, you're not just producing a show, which, by the way, is not easy. There's the lighting, the sound, getting the people in and out, picking the right entertainers. For example, my opening act on August of 1980, making $150 for a week of work, was Gary Shandling. Now, if you don't know that name, he had his own series, The Gary Shandling Show, The Larry Sanders Show, another series. Just Google the name Gary Shandling, and you'll go, oh, that guy, because he's been in hundreds of movies as well. Well, he was my opening act. The very next week, Bob Saget was the headliner, and a good friend of mine, Dave Coulier, his partner on Full House, those 2 guys really helped me get going. In fact, Dave was at my bachelor party back in the day. So a lot of great friendships and connections, which led me into success with stand-up comedy. But going back to my storyline, you're not just producing a show. When you open a comedy club, you have to have a bar. So now you're looking at liquor cost and employees and bartenders and waitresses. And in California, you have to sell food. So I had to open a restaurant and worry about food cost and what to order and what to serve. So getting into the comedy club business was quite a challenge. And I think because I was young, stupid, and wasn't afraid to work hard, I was able to make it into a success. Getting back to the submarine, I'm sorry if I'm going off, Brandon, but
No,
I
this
want to
is
try to
great.
answer
I
your
love hearing it.
questions. I made a lot of money in the comedy business in the 80s, and I was a part owner of a company called Snuba. Have you ever heard of Snuba?
No.
There's about 150 locations around the world. Anybody that travels and loves the ocean has heard of this. Snuba is underwater snorkeling. And I was one of the original owners of that company some 30 years ago. Well, that same company developed a tourist submarine called the Nautilus, and they asked me to fly over to Honolulu, Hawaii, Pearl Harbor exactly, and help them launch the Nautilus 1, the very first one. And I was there helping them finish out the build out and do the marketing for the launch of this first tourist submarine. And I go, I got to get me one of these. And I invested a lot of money and got my own submarine and launched it in Monterey, California, one of the deepest, most beautiful parts of our coastline, where there's sea otters and pelagic fish and kelp forest and sea lions. It's a beautiful place. But I failed, Brandon. It was so much fun, but I lost my ass. So not all my adventures have been profitable, but I wanted to bring up something very important to your audience. When you are going through life, which is going to be much shorter than you think, you have to really enjoy and grasp it. And as an entrepreneur, for me, that means opening a business in something that I have interested in. And I love the ocean. I'm a scuba diver. So getting into snuba, getting into my own submarine was natural, even though it sounds weird. But comedy and entertainment and doing customer service and serving food and drink, having art galleries, opening restaurants where I could present live jazz 6 nights a week. All these things were good or bad business decisions, but guess what they were? They were fun. I was having so much fun doing all these adventures that it was really an exciting life. There was a lot of financial highs, a lot of financial lows. I've been bankrupt twice. I've been pretty rich a couple times. And the money never really mattered to me. As long as I was doing something I felt gave back to everybody and was fun.
I think that's more important than probably everything else. I would argue that, and I usually do stand on that soapbox with our clients too, the people we work with, because if you're not having fun, I mean, what's the point? As a matter of fact, if you're watching this, that's part of our logo, the green play button at the top of the upside down question mark. It's play. You should be playing. You should be having fun in business. It makes life more enjoyable, business more enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I got to tell you, and I don't want to be disrespectful of anybody that, and everybody has to do a different job, and they're not all exciting. But when I came out of high school, as I mentioned, that construction business, I was 17 years old. When I opened my first comedy club, I was 24. I was just a kid, but I was willing to take the risk. And that's kind of one of the key things about being an entrepreneur. Boy, I can spell that out. Is you have to be willing to take risk that you feel something special about, something that you're willing to risk everything on, knowing full well that you could fail. And I failed many times. I think one of the secrets to success is being a failure at times. Just like in stand-up comedy, you're never going to be a big hit on stage if you haven't bombed on stage, right? It was once said very poignantly that failures are the stepping stones to success. And if you're falling forward, at least you're moving forward. You're doing something to benefit yourself or humanity, depending on how you look at it. And stand-up comedy and all these other things like restaurants and art galleries and stuff were so fun, but also were viable businesses.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that message. I'm curious on the business side of things. So you're creating all these different businesses. I'm sure some of them, if not a lot of them, overlap. They were at the same time. What was your strategy to manage all that and grow them? Because they're also very different. I mean, a comedy club from an art gallery there's a lot of similarities, but they're drastically different emotions that you're trying to evoke from people. So how did you manage that all at the same time?
Well, I was pretty blessed with the success of the comedy clubs. I was able to stretch my creative aspect out into other areas that I was interested in. Like I mentioned, I liked jazz and live music. So I literally opened a restaurant just to have live music 6 nights a week. I have a secret barbecue restaurant recipe. And so I opened a restaurant just to showcase that recipe. It was all barbecue chicken and ribs, and it was called Sticky Fingers. And it was very successful. The art galleries were, I got interested. I'm a collector of art and other things, but one of my big interests in the 80s was animation art. In fact, I've written a couple books on the art of collecting animation. And for your audience, if they don't know, animation would be like your early Mickey Mouse cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Warner Brothers. I had a chance to interview some of the great creators, Fritz Freeling and others, Bob Clampett, that created some of the early cartoons. In fact, in my book, Sell Magic, The Art of Collecting Animation, I got a chance to interview Dave Smith, who's the official archivist for the Disney company. And I got a private tour of the Disney archives and got a chance to hold a Steamboat Willie animation cell, which if anybody's into animation, that was like, whoa, it was pretty amazing. But all these things were interest of mine that the money I made in the comedy clubs allowed to happen. There's still the core was producing shows night after night in Sacramento, bringing in the famous and not so famous stand-up comics and trying to entertain a different audience 8 shows a week. And there's a challenge there, but it was really fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I cannot let you off this show. I know you said it was a secret recipe, but my passion is barbecue.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
you gotta share it. Give me something. Like what is the recipe that makes this so secret? I gotta have it, Scott.
It's not really a huge secret, but if you take your basic barbecue sauce that you could buy anywhere at any store, and you add either some molasses or honey, give it a little bit of a sweet tang. But what really makes a difference, mix in some yellow mustard, and it gives it a nice tang and goes really well with all those meats, ribs, chicken. I don't use it on burgers, but it works really well on ribs and chicken. And opened a whole restaurant on it, and people loved it.
That's it. Did you smoke it or like anything special?
No, no,
It's just the
we
sauce.
slow cook the ribs, and I don't know people that know barbecuing. It's best to slow cook both your chicken, grill it first, and then add the sauce for just the last few minutes. The same with ribs. Pre-cook it, get nice moist ribs, and then baste the crap out of it with the barbecue sauce and give it a nice burn off. Right, get a little bit of crust on there. But that basic. Barbecue sauce with a little bit of honey or molasses and some yellow mustard gives it a really nice kind of sweet, tangy flavor.
Well, I know what I'm trying this weekend. I appreciate that.
No problem. I'll send you a bill.
Yeah, definitely. For whatever the royalties are. I promise I won't be selling the recipe.
I'm just kidding, man. Have a good meal with it. I still barbecue several times a year for my family and friends, and the sauces never let anybody down. But it has been a great adventure, and I recommend to anybody that has that itch to own your own business. It is scary, it can be risky, but there's so much reward. I was going to tell earlier, and I got sidetracked. A lot of my friends out of high school went and worked for the state or went and worked for the county, and they were fine jobs and they did good. And they spent, 40 hours a week in some cubicle doing some, important work for the state and county. But that was their whole life. As an entrepreneur, I had a construction company. I was in the music business. I was producing shows and concerts and TV. After that, I had a travel agency for a number of years. I ended up building a fairly large insurance brokerage. It was always based on customer service and trying to make a living while doing something you love, which was helping people. Early on, it was helping them with humor and laughter. And later on, it was helping them by protecting their assets and being there with their biggest time of need to support them. And that was something that always drove me. And I just so honored to have a chance to be here on Harmonious and share some of this information. Who knows, maybe somebody out there will take that leap of faith, believe in themselves, and start their own business.
I love it. I appreciate having you here. It's one of the more unique stories that we've had on the show. And one of the things that I'm hearing that it just really resonates with me personally is even in the beginning, you talk about the comedy club and how that funded the other businesses and the other adventures, which I love that you use that term, by the way. That is what I want to see more entrepreneurs do. I see so many people start businesses, they have a little bit of success, and then when they go to grow it, it requires more of their time. And it's this backwards equation that then makes them hate their business. I wish more people took your approach where that first business, love it or hate it, funded more adventures and more
Oh,
creative.
right. Exactly. The first business was a construction company, and then the portable music. Well, that was a little more fun. But I worked my ass off in the construction company, but it was not my lifelong dream. But it was a good initial step to learn about my abilities and what it takes to succeed. And that advice to anybody listening is that if there's something you're interested in doing, research it. And more important than that, talk to people in the industry. People love to talk about their jobs. So when I opened my construction company, it was a striping business. We painted lines in parking lots. I went to the owner of the largest striping company in Sacramento. And of course, I'm not competition to him, but I said, man, I'd love to get into this business. Where do you get your paint? What do you charge? And by the way, what's the secret to your success? And people love talking about themselves and their business, because when you're an entrepreneur, you have pride in what you've accomplished, and you'd like to share that with anybody that's interested in listening. And as an entrepreneur, that helps you build your future by using advice and information from others, just like the comedy clubs. Before I open, I talk to comics, I talk to waitresses, bartenders, and most importantly, I talk to other club owners and club managers. Hey, what do you charge? Where do you get your talent? What is the audience looking for? How do you market? Right? And just get them to talk, and then take mental notes or take hand notes, whatever it takes, and then make it your own. You take all this information, you put it together, and you create what fits you.
I love it. Scott, this was awesome. I hope we've educated, inspired, at the very least, I hope we've entertained people.
Well, if nothing else, they've got a new barbecue recipe.
I know I do. The rest of the episode was definitely valuable, but that piece I will be trying immediately this weekend. But where can people learn more about you?
Brandon, can I put in a quick plug?
Please do.
So first off, anybody listening, I still love and involved in the stand-up comedy industry. I have a podcast called Stand-Up Comedy, Your Host and MC. Stand-Up Comedy, Your Host and MC, where I interview the famous and not so famous and share their stand-up comedy. And one week it's an interview, the next week it's pure comedy. Then I have a short version for people that are at work and only have 5 minutes. It's called Comedy Appetizers. So if you get a chance, look for that. And you can find all of these great podcasts on my own stand-up comedy network. It's free on your Android and Apple phones. It's called the Stand-Up Comedy Podcast Network. That's Stand-Up Comedy Podcast Network.com. It's a website and a free app. It has great information, some videos of people like Bob Saget, Paula Poundstone, Gary Shandling. There's Joke of the Day, a comedy course, and all kinds of fun stuff. So check those out if you like to laugh. And Brandon said he did. He's on record that these. Oh no, you said you didn't.
I actually said I hate having fun and laughing, so it's just not for me, Scott. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, everybody but Brandon, check those out. Brandon, we're going to get him into some therapy.
This is my therapy. I love laughing. I love connecting with you. This was awesome, Scott. I can't end these episodes without though a powerful question. That's what we believe in here at What If. Powerful questions get powerful answers. You have inspired the audience, hopefully, and definitely entertained them. But we talked about a lot of things about building a career full of adventure and going after the things that you want to do, have fun, right? So for the person listening who's maybe at that point where they haven't jumped yet, they haven't started the business, or maybe they're in that place where I said they have a business, but they've grown to kind of hate it. What's the powerful question you want them to ask themselves when thinking about the next portion of their career?
Whenever you make a difficult decision, it is so human nature to think about the now. And what I always tried to do is think about 3 to 5 years ahead. Is this something I'm going to want to be doing a few years from now? And what can I do to reach that goal? You know, I set my goals every day. I still do. 5 things to do, 5 goals, whatever you want to call it. And you do the same thing over the next 3 to 5 years. And the other thing that is scary for so many people is sometimes you just have to go for it, right? You may fail. That's okay. We all fail. You know, Elon Musk has failed at many things, but he's a huge success. Stand-up comics like Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno bombed many times early in their careers. It's all part of the process of learning and gaining knowledge. So take all this information, make it your own, and go out there and be happy, have fun.
I love it. It's great advice. Scott, thank you for being here.
Oh, man, what a joy. And it was very harmonious.
See that? See what we did there? Maybe it was on purpose. Wherever you're watching and listening, we'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here. Make sure you subscribe. We love putting these episodes out 5 days a week.
Woo!
See you tomorrow.